This is the Hollywood Outsider. My name is Aaron Peterson, and this is a special episode. Today I'm going to interview Caleb Bacon. He's the writer on Sullivan and Son, which is a TBS comedy that's been airing for, 2 years now?
Yeah, season 2 is on right now.
Season 2 is on right now. His first official, fully credited script is actually airing on Thursday,
August 15th.
So look for that, and look for repeats if you're catching this after the fact. We're going to interview Caleb, and we're kind of going to go into how he got into Hollywood, how he got started, and how he ended up where he is today, and where he wants to go from there. So how you doing, man?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Aaron. It's good to be here. Good to talk to you. I thank you for all your support from afar. Now we get to chat together.
How... anything I can do. You're kind of on the flip side of the mic because Caleb does have his own podcast, which is called Man School. It's completely different from the entertainment industry, actually. But how do you like being on the other side where you're actually being interviewed?
It's fun. Yeah, it's definitely fun. And I also host the official Sullivan and Son podcast.
That's true,
which is called Sullivan and Son Behind the Bar. And, again, that's me doing the interviews, and I love both sides of it, but I like answering questions. It keeps me on my toes.
When you do that, was that your original idea since you'd been in podcasting before? Did you say, hey, let's try this, or did they come to you?
No, actually, somebody came to me and said, hey, since you already do this, what do you think about hosting the Sullivan and Son podcast? And I was almost like, oh, geez, you idiot. Why didn't I think of that before?
Probably because you were busy writing.
Yeah, that's true. It was definitely really hard to coordinate schedules with the people because the actor's schedule and the writer's schedule are pretty much totally different. So there was such a small window to actually get together. And
we'll get a little bit more into detail with that later. Why you're on our show, and obviously I'm sure you realize this, is that we talk about movies and TV. I mean, that's what we do every single week. And Caleb has a special insight into that. Plus, I mean, he's made it officially. A lot of guys try to get into the business and never seem to find their footing, but you're on your way, man. So when did you first realize you want to be a writer?
I think when I was a teenager, I knew that there was something in the world of comedy for me. I really like stand-up. I like the idea of, maybe I could write a movie one day. And I didn't really know where to go with that, and I wasn't really motivated to succeed in high school so I could go to a good college, which could feed me off into showbiz. It was just sort of like, I kind of want to do that sometime in my life. I don't know how or when, but that's kind of on my list.
Now, was it always entertainment screenwriting you wanted to get into? Or since you were a comedian, did you want to get into stand-up? Did you want to be a journalist, novelist? What did you want to do when you got to entertainment?
I did stand-up in college. Mm-hmm. And I did stand up for about 6 months. And I had a falling out with a comedy club owner. And basically... it just really gave me a chance to look at what I wanted. And I was like a 20-year-old who liked to drink with his friends. I had really pissed off this one guy, and so I mean the truth is as much as I wanted to just party on the weekends and not be in a comedy club, I just needed some space from that world because there was somebody who was mad at me.
What kind of disagreement can you get into with a comedy club owner? Aren't they supposed to be happy? Pretty jovial individuals?
Well, it's a business. And, actually, I never talk about this, but I'll be honest with you. You're a good guy, Aaron. I like you.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I was helping sell some tickets for the club.
Okay.
And he thought that I was cheating him out of some money. And
really?
There was a misunderstanding, and really, I wasn't cheating him out of some money, but... basically, I did not clear it up properly. I just kind of ran and hid, and I was scared.
Well, you were young.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I was young, and so basically for me, that was the end of stand-up for me because of that. But also, the other side of it is I just wasn't that hungry for it. It was fun. I liked it. I had some, people were laughing at me pretty early on.
In the right way, you mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I would tell a joke and they would laugh at the joke, not laugh at the inability to tell the joke. But of course, all young comics suck. That's just sort of how it works. But just because people are not comfortable on stage, that's just not how it works. It takes a while to get there. But so for me, it was just enough to be all right, I'll pick comedy back up at another point in time. But for now, I'll just be a normal 20-year-old kid.
So it's not, I think people are probably under the misconception that when comedians hit it big, that they just hit the stage and they nailed it from one day forward. That's not how it works, right? It takes years and years of rehearsal, practice, etc.
Yeah, you hear some people talk about like Chris Rock going up at comedy clubs when he was 15 and, getting laughs. But still, when you think about it, he was 15. So he put in a lot of work before he ever actually got, on television. But yeah, for me, it's like I could make people laugh, but, I was so far away from being comfortable on stage or even knowing what was my point of view on the world.
Yeah, that's pretty normal for that age. So you come to Hollywood. You decide I'm going to go to Hollywood. I'm going to make it big. I'm sure that's what everybody that goes to Hollywood thinks. And tell us about your first break. Like, how did you actually get your first break?
I got to say, I didn't come out to Hollywood to make it big. I'm from Albany, New York, and it's kind of a cold and boring place. Like, I loved growing up there, but I just kind of knew, like, all right, once I get old enough to move on with my life, I'm going to go somewhere else. And I felt that in Albany, it was just, cold and boring. So I moved out to Los Angeles for good times and good weather.
So you didn't actually go to make it big in entertainment. You just went to L.A.
I was looking for answers. I didn't know what to do with my life. I had this really cool job with Red Bull when I was in college. And it showed me that you could have like a fun job out there in the world and not always have to wear a suit and not have to like hate your life and then come home at night and talk crap about how much of a jerk your boss is and that sort of thing. And so I figured LA would be a good place for me because there seemed to be like a lot of fun jobs, not just showbiz, but I did have an in, and you know what my last name is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know where this is going with my uncle Kevin Bacon.
Nice.
I am related to a guy named Kevin Bacon, but not
the Kevin Bacon,
not the Footloose star.
See, you just got half the people listening excited, and then they just turned it off.
Yeah,
like, son of a bitch.
I was at a restaurant in Hollywood having some breakfast a couple weeks back, and Kevin Bacon was there sitting at a table with a friend of his, and I kind of felt like I should say hi to him, let him know that, hey, we're both Bacons here, but I let the man eat his bacon.
Was he really eating bacon? Were you eating bacon? Somebody better have eaten bacon.
I was eating bacon, probably enough for the both of us. I didn't see what was on his plate. So when I came out here, I had an opportunity for an introductory level job as a production assistant on the pilot for the television show Big Love in 2004. So basically just got to work in the office and be a gopher and, drop off time cards at the payroll company, pick up extra film from Kodak, that sort of thing.
It's funny when you're speaking to that, because I think people generally have that feeling that it's so glamorous, every aspect of making a movie or making a TV show. And it's really not. There's a lot of just day-to-day stuff that goes on. I mean, you were dropping off time cards. It doesn't sound like movie glow,
That's the thing. Like, every show, whether it's a television show or a film, is basically like a company. Your CEO is going to be the showrunner, and you're going to have these, different executive vice presidents who are the producers and that sort of thing. And, you got to have clean bathrooms. You got to have paper towels in the kitchen. It's just like any office.
And when you're first starting out, we know how hard it is for an actor because we've heard that story a million times. I mean, every actor with James Lipton has told this story. But how hard is it for someone behind the camera, if you're just in the crew, to actually find jobs?
I would say it's pretty similar because a lot of the jobs are union jobs, and you can't. There's really tough laws about like how you can get these jobs, and so if you want to be a camera guy, you basically won't get hired to be a camera guy unless you're a camera guy, and you can't get hired to do camera work unless you've done camera work, and so it's tricky because a couple years ago, when people weren't always making their YouTube videos over the weekend, that people had to like take a chance on you more so. So you had to know people. They had to think you were a good worker. You had potential, that sort of thing. Now, at least you could say, okay, here's my reel. I've made 15 web shorts, that sort of thing. So it's definitely made it easier. But the thing about like these jobs is that people spend a lot of time together, and these are long hours on all these shows. So they want to hire people that they don't have to take as much of a chance on because they want to hire people that they want to spend 12, 15 hours a day with. So it really helps to like have connections. So whether that's to be in front of the camera or behind the camera, it's kind of similar.
Really? That's interesting. we here at the Hollywood Outsider, we're pretty huge fans of Deadwood. I mean, I haven't seen it as much as the other guys, but Justin and Brian on our show, I mean, they won't stop talking about it. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask, because you worked on it. What was it like working on that show?
Yeah, I worked behind the scenes on seasons 2 and 3 of Deadwood. And Aaron, it sounds like I should be talking to your co-host, not you.
If we had you would never be done, because Justin would ask about 400 questions and Brian would just sit there in awe. So
yeah. So right now with Sullivan and Son, I work at Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And Warner Brothers is my favorite movie studio lot. It's huge. It's like spacious, even though there's a ton of stuff going on. Like, it's pretty. It's in good shape. You'll see like the Batmobiles drive by occasionally. I saw Clint Eastwood on a golf cart a week ago. Like, it's the sort of thing where it's like, oh, this is Hollywood. This is showbiz. This is cool. But with Deadwood, every single day I had to drive 30 miles north of Los Angeles to this tiny town called Newhall. And there was this movie studio ranch called Melody Ranch. And it's literally like you're in the high desert. It's like a different altitude. It gets really hot during the day and really cold at night. And it was this ranch surrounded by like other ranches. So there were no Batmobiles driving by. Like, there were like lizards hanging out everywhere because like they lived there. You know, like the neighbor properties like had horses. So it wasn't just like our show was the only one with horses out there. Mm-hmm. It was really like going to this world every single day. And we had this ranch, which was only Deadwood. So there was no other productions there. And it was really a trip, because just going there, it was like totally different place. And it was a lot of fun, and probably a one-of-a-kind experience. And I don't know if I'll ever have something like that, but it was really, really amazing.
Do you have any like real special story? When you go to parties, that's the story you tell?
There's a couple of them. I would say I almost got killed a few times on that show.
By Timothy Olyphant? Because he's such a gunslinger.
No, but it's one of those things where like the show kind of was like the Wild West. You know, a horse got away one day, got loose, and nearly mowed some people down, myself included, and like that was really scary. But to do a show like that happened. There was a guy who was like rigging this big chandelier that was like a couple 100-pound wooden chandelier, and like the wire or like the rope that was hanging it up touched a light bulb and it burned, and this couple 100-pound chandelier fell like 20-30 feet down and landed like 5 feet next to me. And where it landed was like right where I'd been standing. And so, you know, that's not exactly a happy story. It scared the crap out of me. But that was the sort of thing that like happened at Deadwood. It was just sort of like high risk in a lot of ways. And you were just so like immersed in it that it was just made it very exciting.
So did you ever go through the swinging doors and just pretend you were a gunslinger?
No. Even I couldn't act that well.
How were those guys to be around, like Ian McShane and Timothy Olyphant and the rest of the cast? Pretty normal, down to earth, or did they realize they were in something special?
I mean, actors are kind of a different breed of people, but a lot of shows like it doesn't, for the actors, they don't have to act that hard. And especially when they're like really good actors, like it's not a big stretch for them. Mm-hmm. But with Deadwood, it stretched the hell out of every actor. And so basically, they had to work their butts off, and that meant like between takes, you couldn't really joke around with the crew too much because they kind of had to like stay in that place where they were mentally in order to be ready for, you know, when we would change a lighting setup to go back and do like the same intense scene over and over again. So yeah, these guys worked really hard, and so it was nice when you got to see them like at parties and that sort of thing, because they got to unwind and you could enjoy their personalities more.
Now, how does it feel? And we'll get to the rest of it in a second, but I'm curious, how does it feel to you being a part of the show? And I think you left before the final season, right?
No, I was on the final season.
You were in the final, okay.
Yeah.
So how does it feel to know that the show doesn't get a proper ending? Because that was a big thing for the fans, but how does it feel to actually be on the show and realize that you didn't get to complete the story that you wanted to tell? Or that your team wanted to tell?
Yeah, it was a bummer all around, because it was one of those rare situations where the show was a critical hit and it was a ratings hit, but just financially that the network couldn't make it work out. So nobody saw it coming. It was really, really disappointing. And even though it was like I worked on the Big Love pilot before Deadwood. Then I went to Deadwood for 2 years, and it was like I lived at that ranch for 2 years, and I loved it. And it was such like a great experience. And even though I was like really young in my career and I didn't have a lot to compare it to, I could just tell it was a special thing. Mm-hmm. So when the show got canceled, everybody was like in mourning after that. It was like a sad thing, and so I could really feel like the pain from everybody, including the creator of the show who didn't get a chance to finish his story.
That sounds like it. Now you've also worked on a couple other shows, such as Luck, that one also ended pretty abruptly.
Yeah, you could say so. Yeah,
just because of horses. Is that basically, what it boiled down to? Horse death.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It was horse death. That was the problem.
Seems like a problem. Yeah.
If horses did not die, that show may have had a different. It may not have went on for 10 years, but it would not have been canceled on the day it was canceled.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing to read because you just never see that coming. But you worked on that, John in Cincinnati, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in varying capacities. Does working on each show, because these are completely different shows, each one of these is very different. Does working on each show differ from the others, or is it just like every other job, another day in the office?
No, it's all totally different. It's different from and a lot of it stems from like the bosses of the show. Like, what are their attitudes like? And, I'm sure it's like whatever job you or your listeners work, you can have a great job, but if you've got a jerk for a boss, that makes that job hard. Or if you've got like a lousy job, but your boss is great, you're kind of happy to go to work. So there's a lot of factors like that, or where it is you go to work. When I worked on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that was over at the Fox lot. And the Fox Studios, to me, is kind of like a Scooby-Doo ghost town. Like it's not like that run down, but it's a little bit spooky. It's a little bit old-fashioned in a way that doesn't really make sense. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a weird place. So for me, it's like when I go to Warner Brothers, I'm like jazzed up every day because it's exciting. And when I go to Fox, I sort of expect there to be like a drifter hiding behind the bushes.
That's an awesome way to tell that story. That's the difference between the studios. Yeah. Warner Brothers is just open, friendly. Like they've been there, like they're family. That's what it sounds like. I don't know.
I feel welcome at Warner Brothers. At Fox, I don't feel so welcome. And the food's a lot better at Warner Brothers too, and that helps.
That's really what it all boils down to.
Well, when you're at a place for a long amount of time and you got to eat lousy food, it doesn't help.
Yeah, it doesn't help your mood. I could see that. That's why the crew all weigh 300-400 pounds. Is that what you're saying?
If they take care of you, they do.
So what brought you to Sullivan and Son? What got you to work at that show?
The creator of that show, Rob Long, was a guy who I had worked with on and off, and he had been selling a lot of shows to networks, and basically the process is networks buy a lot of shows, and then the amount of pilots that they create from those shows is a small number. Then the amount of shows that actually go from pilot to be on the air is a small number. So there's a lot of people out there who are really successful writers who don't have shows on the air. Mm-hmm. And he was a guy who has had a lot of shows on the air, but hadn't really had one in a couple of years, though he was selling shows every year. And then so finally Sullivan and Son goes on the air and he says, "Hey, do you want to come work on the show?" And I helped him put together the script, and I helped out with the pilot. And it was so much fun that I ended up quitting the show Luck a week before it got canceled to work on Sullivan and Son.
Ooh, that was fortuitous.
Yeah, I took a real leap of faith, and which it paid off in just a week.
You had some good luck.
Yeah.
Now tell us, and feel free. Take as much time as you want. Don't feel like you're rambling. But tell us what a normal week is like. And the writer's room, the hours, interacting with the cast, all that sort of thing. What goes through a normal week of what we see on television? What do you guys go through?
Well, there's a couple different types of week you can have. So there's different phases of production. So what pre-production is like is when everybody's gearing up for the season. And when you're in pre-production as a writer, you don't have to work around the clock. You can pretty much set some normal office hours. You come in, you get some work done, and the cast isn't really around for that. And it's just you're working on figuring out what are going to be the stories we want to write for the season. What are some things we want certain characters to do or don't do. And so when we do that, it's a lot of fun, but it definitely lacks some of the energy that happens when you get into production. And then when you get into production, especially for doing like a multicam sitcom like Sullivan and Son, the thing comes alive. You start the week with a table read where all the actors sit around a table and.
Now, are you in there when that happens? Okay.
Yeah. In television, the writers are the producers of the show, and so you gotta be there for everything. And then throughout the production week, you just keep rewriting the same script to make it better, make it funnier, cut things that aren't working, figure out what is working, and how you can make sure it's at the best possible spot in the script. And then you rewrite it, and then at the end of the week, you get to shoot the show in front of an audience. And it's the sitcom production week is just very interactive. Like, you have to be close to the actors because you see them rehearse every day. And, you get to hear how they make things work, or maybe what they're having trouble with. And it's great because you're not just in an office all day. Like, you get to be part of this thing and like part of a team. And for me, that's a lot of fun. And like, if you want to be a feature film writer and you're the type of person who doesn't want to interact with anybody, like kind of like a novelist, then like that is out there for you if you just want to like write movies, because then people will buy your screenplay and then you go write your next one. You don't stay involved with the process. But with television, as a writer, you're super involved with the process, and I really like that.
Wow. Okay, so you go through your table reads and then you perform it. The actors perform it in front of a live audience, correct? Okay, and then how does that go? Because I've always wondered about that. I mean, I've seen, Big Bang Theory and stuff like that, where it's recorded in front of a live audience. I wonder, do they get multiple tries at getting the joke right, or is it done like a play where it's a one-shot?
Actually, for Sullivan and Son, we do something which I guess is more of an old school thing that nobody else does now, which is we literally do both of the things that you just said. We do 2 shows on one day, where the first show, we'll just do it sort of like a dress rehearsal, where we have an audience in, we have the cameras up, we perform it like a play with one take through each scene. And then for a second show, we do a bunch of takes for every scene. And it takes a lot longer, but you get to try some different things. And if people screw up, we can make sure to, do it the best possible way in another take. So we do both for Sullivan and Son. Most shows just do like a 4 or 5 hour block of time where you shoot multiple takes of every single scene.
That's really interesting. Now, once it's shot and recorded, then what goes into getting it on the air? I mean, because I know it comes out months later. So, I mean, how long do you guys go through, refine it, and tweak it? Or do you, as soon as you're done recording, basically just cut it, edit it, and it's ready to go?
Well, sometimes it comes out pretty quickly. I mean, I think we turned around an episode this year in like a week and a half.
Wow.
From when we shot it to when we put it on the air. My episode that comes out this week that we're talking here, we shot it about 4 months ago. And there's just a lot of decisions that go into when episodes come out that, aren't necessarily about the episode. And because we're not a serialized show like a Breaking Bad, like, we can air these out of order because it's just about each individual episode to contain story that's not too dependent on what happened last week.
That makes sense. Now, have you already seen the episode that you wrote? Have you actually seen it, or are you waiting to see it with everyone else? The final product.
I haven't seen the final product. No, I've seen some of it, but not the final thing.
Are you nervous?
No, I'm not, because I got to see it in front of an audience, and it went really, really well, and I was happy with it. Everybody else was happy with it. People laughed at the jokes, which is always nice.
Did you walk around afterward going, "Yeah, I wrote that"? Just high-fiving random audience members?
I still do that. I'll be at the mall and people are like, what are you talking about? Like, I wrote it, don't you know?
They're like, I don't even have cable, man. Thanks. Now that you've had your own script turned into an episode, I mean, what's that like for you? Because you've had it happen before in pieces. You haven't had your whole script, but in pieces. What's it like seeing your words come out of the actor's mouth? I mean, is it a little surreal for you? Because it's basically your head.
Yeah, well, one of the fun things about doing a sitcom the way we do it is you have to test the material every single day. And so when you start the week at the table read, if there's a great joke that we thought was so fantastic, and it just doesn't work coming out of a certain actor's mouth, like, you can't make it work. You got to change it, either by making it better or replacing it with something else. So to actually have like a material survive until the night of the show meant it's had to survive a lot of different rounds. So just like the whole process, like there's always like little victories. And it's like, to hear something at a table read come out of an actor's mouth is great for one reason, but then to hear something come out of an actor's mouth on the show night is also great too. Mm-hmm. So it's it can be surreal, especially when I think something that's like the most surreal is, like, I might write a joke that I don't think is that great. Like, I think it like okay, sure, this is a good joke. Mm-hmm. And then if people like go nuts over it, it's like, oh, really? That you guys responded that well to that? You know, it's not that it was a bad joke. It's just that's kind of how comedy works. Like or like music or anything. It's like you never know how it's going to affect somebody else.
How does that work in the writer's room? So if you say a joke and it bombs, let's say it bombs. And I'm sure this never happens to you, but when the other writers write jokes that bomb, how do you? What's the process for getting that refined? I mean, how do you guys go around and decide? You know, here's what we need to do. Here's where it needs to go. I mean, who makes that final call?
The boss.
The boss.
There's like the head writer of a television show is called the showrunner, who's like the CEO of our business, and it's up to him.
So do you guys collaborate then, or is it he steps to you and says, "Look, that wasn't funny. Let's do this."
You can tell something's not funny when nobody's laughing.
Yeah.
Silence is the best way to know when a joke doesn't work.
So you guys really do. You just sit around and run material by each other, basically.
That's what it is.
Wow,
yeah, all day long.
That's kind of interesting.
It's so much fun because if you're laughing all day, that means the work is going well, and you get a job where you get to laugh all day.
It's not a bad job to have.
No, it's fantastic. That's why I want to keep having this job. And that's why I want everyone to watch Sullivan and Son as much as possible.
I'm sure it will be on for 12 more seasons. Do you ever watch an episode after the fact and just cringe at something that you wrote? Or do you usually just giggle maniacally? Like, I wrote it.
I think, so Sullivan and Son, it's only a 10-episode season show. Mm-hmm. Like a network show, it would be like 22 or 24. So by the end of season 2 of Sullivan and Son, was more like we were at the end of season 1 of a network show. Mm-hmm. And when you're first doing a show, it takes a while to kind of find what it is about the show that works and what doesn't work, and like what characters do best with each other and scenes and things like that. So when I watch early episodes of Sullivan and Son, it's like, really? We did that? But because like it doesn't, some stories may not feel like we wouldn't do them now because it doesn't feel like what the show is.
For a regular network show, 22 episodes, that's been the standard for years. And then cable started getting into their original programming situation, and they had like 13 episodes. But now networks are trimming it down to 10. Is there a reason why? Is it economics or what?
I don't know. I mean, and I'll be cliche for a second, but I think just a lot of networks don't have their crap together. Like, I think a lot of networks just... for example, HBO seems to really have it figured out. In terms of cable networks, that's probably about it. Because people are trying out different things and trying to figure out a business model that really works. And the problem is television's losing eyeballs left and right. Mm-hmm. And it's not even that other networks are competing against other networks anymore. It's like people are on Facebook. People are going for a hike. People are doing whatever they're doing, and they're getting off television. So when the numbers are going down in general, networks are just trying things to see if maybe maybe people will prefer 10 episodes over 13, whatever it is. And it's like, I don't know what the answer is, but the networks aren't really trying things with a lot of balls. I guess, Aaron, what I'm saying is that people are in television, the executives are really scared these days. Mm-hmm. And it comes out, and there's so many shows that are just not that good because they're so safe. Like they're just so like diluted because network executives don't want to get fired for like the shows that are theirs, but there's less people watching television, and it's almost like I think your show has to be like noisier and edgier and more exciting to like pull people in because that's why people are watching all these reality shows, is because it's just a lot more exciting. than another show that follows a formula that just people are not that excited about.
Now, how do you guys handle that? I mean, especially the crew. How do you handle the ratings battle? Are you constantly just sitting there watching the ratings, and are you waiting for studio notes, or do you guys just try not to pay any attention to it?
I mean, I think you pay attention to it whether you want to or not, because other people are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one trap that I don't get too caught up in right now that I definitely used to get caught up in is always talking about, like, oh, do you think they're going to pick us up, or how many episodes do you think they're going to pick us up for, or do you think we're going to get canceled next week? And just always having that conversation just sucks the life out of you. So, I mean, it's zen, but the way to handle it is to just do one day at a time and say, whatever happens is going to happen. Let's just do the best work we can do. But it's such a trap, and a lot of people get caught up in it of just having that conversation all the time, and I'm just sick of it.
Oh, I bet. But I mean, it's not like a lot of people that have a 9-to-5 job. A lot of them, they get pretty complacent, and they realize, you know what, as long as I don't do anything too stupid, I'm probably going to have a job. Where yours depends on things you have zero control over. And, whether or not people watch it, I mean, Netflix, I'm sure, is taking some audience away, and I'm sure that concerns a lot of I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into your job. How is that for you? I mean, I realize you don't try to think about it, but how is that knowing that that's an issue nowadays? Like, you have to be semi-popular, you have to be seen to continue basically your job.
Well, also going back to Deadwood, that show should have been renewed by all standards because it was a hit, because it was winning awards, because people watched it and critics loved it. But at the same time, it still got canceled. So we could have easily said, "Oh, this show's going to go on forever. Everybody loves it." So basically, it's the conjecture which I think kills you. Trying to live into the unknown and trying to say, "Oh, this is how the network's going to respond based upon this is what's happening," and then you just kind of set yourself up for disappointment.
Now, do you guys hate some of the new factions like streaming media and whatnot? I mean, does it really cut into the business model, I guess?
No, it's more opportunities to work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's more opportunities to do good work. Like Amazon and Netflix are trying to create all these new shows, and they are given plenty of power to the showrunners to try and create some good shows. Mm-hmm. So when you see crappy shows on television, like I think there's a chance that there's going to be more good shows because there's just more channels now.
I got to tell you, I think Netflix is doing very well so far. I mean, some of their shows, House of Cards, Orange is the New Black. I mean, there's a lot of really challenging material out there. So
I loved House of Cards.
Yeah, I can't wait for the next season. I guess working on your show, because you work directly with comedy, how is it to see other comedies? Is it hard to watch them without thinking, it'd be funnier if you did this, it'd be funnier if you did that? Or can you just sit back and relax and enjoy it?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, I work in comedy because I love it, and I've loved it for so long. And it's just kind of like, it's like a dream job. And like literally what we're talking about, you get to laugh all day long. Like, what is better than that? And, it's almost like I've got these world-class comedians performing for me all day long. And that's pretty exciting. But, I will watch some other shows, and it's like, oh, really? You did that old joke? Or like, maybe you could have done a better job with that scene. But I'll also watch other shows, and it's like, wow, holy crap, that's a good job.
And then you wish you would have thought of it first?
Sometimes yeah, sometimes no. But, I mean, I'm still a fan, so I like to enjoy stuff.
That's good. I was always wondering if you work on the show, if it's hard to take yourself out of watching television or film or whatever media you're in. If you're behind the scenes, is it really hard to partake in it? That's kind of something I always wanted to know. Of any of the shows you've worked on, without naming names, and I really don't want you to name names because just in case, you need a job with them at some point. Have you ever dealt with a stereotypical actor who is just a nightmare on set?
Not to name names, but Humphrey Bogart.
Humphrey Bogart?
What a pain in the Bogart,
Dun, dun, dun,
no.
Dun, dun.
No, Bogey was great. The thing about it is people, especially actors, get a bad rap, but like when you're working with people, you're seeing them at work. So I'm sure there's people that like you've worked with professionally and, any of your listeners that sometimes at work they're not the best guys, but out in their personal life, they're fine. So I think people can be too critical, and especially when it comes to you're working on a set, sometimes 12, 16 hours a day, like that's going to bring out a lot of people's character defects, especially when people get tired and exhausted, or like if you're on a show and it's like you've been going for months and months and you've got a few more months to go, sometimes it's like, oh man, this is tough. So yeah, I mean, there's people I've worked with who I've gotten to see all sides. And if you're only there on the one day where they're acting like a jerk, you might be like, oh, that guy's a total jerk. But, I would say most of the people who I've worked with who have had jerky moments are not jerks all the time.
So they're moments. They're not, throughout the entire duration of the show, they're a-holes. I mean, it was just fluke.
Oh, no, there are some a-holes out there. But I think to kind of step back is the best way to look at it of, okay, how often is this guy an a-hole, or how often is this woman a bitch?
And out of all the actors you work with, is there anybody who just surprised you? They're just were an absolute joy to work with? Excluding the people on your show, obviously, because I'm sure they're all wonderful.
Well, I mean, the people on my show, like the truth is, Sullivan and Son, I work with actors who I want to hang out with. Like they are fun people. Who are friendly and nice and very down to earth. And I mean, a lot of shows that's not the case. Mm-hmm. And so this particular work experience is so great because it's like I'm happy to spend a lot of time with these guys, and it's cool.
So these they don't seem to you as the stereotypical actor. They seem like people that you'd actually want to go to a bar and watch a game with, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally what's going on, and that's what makes the job a lot of fun.
Now, you're also the host of Man School, which is a podcast that I'm a big fan of because it finally offers something a little different. There's about, you and I both know this, there's about 60,000 podcasts out there. But I think Man School offers something a little different as you use guests to try to have fun, but also teach the audience about a specific topic or a trend. How did that start?
I was doing a different podcast before. And I was doing a show where it was just kind of a goofy comedy show, and there wasn't too much of a center to it. And I did that for like a long time, and I realized I needed to do something I was more passionate about because I do work a lot of hours in television, and so to like come home and have to like edit some audio or to just do all the different things you have to do to get a podcast out. And you know what I'm talking about, Aaron?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So I said, all right, I can't do the show I'm doing now. What am I passionate about? And I had to just do a little bit of soul searching. And I realized that having honest conversations about men, about, some different life experiences, it's like one of my favorite things to do, whether I'm on the mic or not. And I realized Man School was going to be a show that was dedicated to that.
And you've had a couple celebrities on there, really, so to speak. I mean, Paul Scheer is pretty popular, especially among podcasts. For How Did This Get Made, for people that don't know. And he's also on The League. He plays Andre on The League. And then Fred, is it Stoller or Stoller? I'm bad with names.
Stoller.
And you had him on as well, and a very funny guy. How do you end up getting these? Is this just from your work experience or everyday life, meeting them in Hollywood? Do you just ask them, hey, you want to come on Man School and teach a story, or what?
Yeah, it's a variety of stuff. I mean, nice thing about Los Angeles is that there's so many people who are creative and interesting and who are open to talking about their stuff. Mm-hmm. So I would say Man School has a lot of comedians on it and a lot of podcasters and radio people. And not that it's all funny, but those are just people who are good at talking. So it's a lot. Yeah, so it's easier whether somebody's a friend of a friend or I hit them up randomly or I know them personally. It's just people who are good talking.
Well, when do you find time to do it? Because honestly, I would assume in the TV show it takes quite a bit of time. So do you just carve out this is 2 hours, I'm going to do this on Friday at 3 a.m.?
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. It's like having a job that's more than a full-time job and then also having a part-time job.
Mm-hmm. And the part-time job you don't really make much off of.
No. But I love doing it, and there's a lot of things I do get out of it, even if it's not money. Mm-hmm. There is a little bit of money, but it's certainly not enough to change my lifestyle.
It's not like you're going to drop out and just be Man School Inc.
I would love to have that option, though.
It could happen.
Well, I think if I keep keep figuring out like what's at the core of Man School and what is it that I want to put out into the world, and how can I use it to help people that eventually one day maybe I could have like a book or something or something where people want to give me some money that's not just for advertising, and there's some service I could put out there, and then bam, we got Man School Incorporated.
Talk show. There you go. You can do the Maury Povich route.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Just do it a little classier. That's all. So in 15 years, Sullivan and Son is going off the air. Where do you want to go next? I mean, so the next time I pull up your IMDb page, what do you hope is going to be on there? I mean, what do you want to accomplish while you're doing this?
That's a great question. There's something I love about working on a multicam, old school sitcom in front of an audience. It's a lot harder than doing any other type of comedy, and some even consider it like a lower art form. But at the same time, you literally have the experience every day of, okay, the crew's not laughing at these jokes. We have to do a better job. The audience is not laughing. We got to do a better job. So there's really no. You never say like, oh, we think this is funny. This seems funny. Let's put it on the air. Like you know how well your stuff's working. And so it's harder, but I love that. So I would just love to keep fighting the good fight in the multicam sitcom world and, making some stuff that's fun and that I'm proud of.
Do you want to be a showrunner at any point? Like, do you have an idea? I mean, you don't have to spell it here. I just mean, do you have something that, someday if I get to the right moment, that's what I want to do?
Yeah. Oh, sure. I would love to be the boss. And, there's a lot of pressure with that, but I think that's what's fun about television is it's not just sitting in a room writing. It's getting to be part of a team, getting to lead some people in battle. And yeah, I'd like to keep my skills going and get to that place.
Excellent, man. Well, I want to thank you for coming on because I know you don't have a lot of free time, so I really do appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Aaron.
And your first episode is going to air this week. It's this Thursday at what time?
10 o'clock East Coast, West Coast, 9 o'clock Central Time, TBS. The replay should be on demand or on tbs.com.
Yeah, so feel free to email us, and we'll make sure that Caleb gets it. Or what's your email address if you want that? Do you have a Man School address they can send if they want to praise you?
Yeah, manschoolshow@gmail.com. And, Man School can be found on iTunes, manschoolshow.com. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, at Caleb Eats Bacon, all those places. If you just search Caleb Bacon on Google, my stuff pops up.
He's everywhere. And thanks again for being here. Again, this is The Hollywood Outsider. Go to thehollywoodoutsiders.com. We've got a new episode every Thursday. This is just a special episode. We wanted to showcase Caleb for a little bit. Make sure to check out Sullivan and Son every Thursday. Take care.